This young man is playing video game in the casket. At his own funeral. The film commences at Darren Shan's funeral, a young, vibrant boy. His passing has taken many by surprise. It has been revealed that he is, in fact, still alive. Funny enough, his playing video game in the casket. The film then moves to the past, as Darren explains the remarkable quality of his life during that period. His parents were pleased with him as he was well-liked at school, had good friends, and performed well academically. Steve, his childhood best friend, represented the sole negative aspect of his life. Steve convinces Darren to forego their history lesson one day at school. Subsequently, the two ascend to the rooftop, where Steve proceeds to throw stones at several light bulbs, shattering them. Their history instructor then perceives the noise emanating from the roof and challenges his colleague to follow suit. As a result, the boys are taken into custody and their parents are informed. Darren faces significant challenges due to his parents' perception of him as the ideal student. Along with issuing a stern reprimand, they imposed a 2-month grounding. Due to his negative influence, they also restrict him from maintaining a friendship with Steve. On his way to school the following day, Darren informs Steve that his parents would prefer him to end their relationship. This situation discourages Steve, and he places the blame on Darren for having poor self-defense. During the quarreling between Steve and Darren, an individual in a limousine tosses a flyer that lands very close to them. An invitation has been extended to a freak show, a circus performance. The event occurs once every 500 years, as stated in the flyer. Steve and Darren recalls when their instructor advised them against attending the performance due to its illegality, yet out of stubbornness they decided to proceed to the freak show. Later that evening, Steve and Darren discreetly departed from their homes and rode their bicycles to the circus. The individuals exhibit unconventional interests. Steve has a fascination with vampires, while Darren is a significant admirer of spiders. They acquire a ticket from a small humanoid figure hidden behind a curtain at the arena. However, the creature bites Steve's hand and retreats after he provides it with the money. The group proceeds into the cinema after setting aside the unusual encounter. A diverse array of age groups, including adults and senior citizens, have shown interest in the program. The show is about to commence, and Mr. Tall, the host, ascends the stage. Prior to presenting a diverse group of individuals to the audience, he expresses his gratitude for their attendance. Initially, the presence of a wolf man causes concern among everyone. In a shocking turn of events, the individual resembling a wolf violently bites off a woman's hand in the crowd at the direction of Mr. Tall. The woman's hand regenerates swiftly, and she approaches the stage with an air of composure, as if as normal day-to-day activity to her. Mr. Tall subsequently identifies her as Korma Limbs, a member of the freak show. Alexander Ribs, an individual who appears to lack ribs, is the upcoming competitor. The third member, Gertha Teeth, possesses an impressive ability to break through materials with her strong teeth. Her companion, Ramus Tubellis, possesses 2 stomachs, enabling him to consume a wide variety of food. He successfully vomits a whole tricycle after eating it completely. Subsequently, Darren is summoned to the stage by Madame Truska, an impressive performer who requests his assistance. She senses an element of transgression within him, yet she withdraws as her fingers graze his face. Madame Truska captivates the audience by unexpectedly developing facial hair as the performance progresses. She unexpectedly requests that the show should end after her performance. Larton Crespley and his spider companion, Octa, take the stage, disregarding her request. He performs on an instrument and captivates the audience with a dance presentation. Steve informs Darren that Larton is, in fact, a vampire known as Verhostin, having identified him from a vampire book. At that moment, law enforcement and community members, including the history teacher of the students, interrupt the event. Darren, captivated by Octa's striking appearance, stills it while the adults are engaged in a big quarrel. However, he is required to hide when someone enters the room as he attempts to make his exit. To his surprise, Larton arrives with an elderly man to discuss the threat posed by the Vampanese, a group of hybrid vampires. Steve enters unexpectedly and requests that they convert him into a vampire. Steve claims that his life is worthless because he has no one. His mother struggles with alcoholism, and his dad disappeared many years ago. Larton ultimately agrees to test his blood following considerable persuasion. However, once he places it in his mouth, he realizes that Steve is quite an unpleasant individual. He exits in anger after declining to turn the child into a vampire. When Larton eventually realizes that his spider is missing, Darren panics and escapes before Larton can check the door where he was hiding. Upon reaching the road, the same vehicle that had previously invited him arrives to pick him up again. 2 individuals, Mr. Tiny and Merlot, commence an inquiry with him indoors. It soon becomes evident that they selected the wrong individual. In actuality, they were attempting to locate his associate Steve. They inform Darren that they will reach out to him prior to dropping him off at his residence. Darren takes measures to ensure Octa's safety by bringing her to school the following day in his backpack. However, Steve saw Darren with the spider and freaks out. As he starts to engage with the spider, he inadvertently causes her to fall to the ground, allowing her to escape. Instead of trying to capture the spider, Steve pursues her with the intent to eliminate her, resulting in significant disruption in the school's hallways. A significant number of students evacuate in fear, and a few sustain injuries. Octa ultimately reached a breaking point and took decisive action, biting Steve's cheek before swiftly exiting through the window. The poison results in the individual collapsing and losing consciousness as a consequence. Darren urgently rushes back to the circus and requests Larton's assistance to save his friend's life. Initially, Larton refuses to provide assistance due to apprehensions regarding the implications of a human discovering their existence. Ultimately, he agrees to supply the antidote, only if Darren accepting the role of being his assistant vampire. Larton informs him that he will consequently need to part ways with his friends, family, and overall social life. Darren will need to discontinue his attendance in classes. It is imperative that he passes away. Darren, determined to save his friend, agrees to the terms and obtains Larton's vampire blood, fully aware of the serious repercussions that may follow. They proceed to the hospital in an effort to preserve Steve's life. Steve starts to recover promptly after Larton administers the antidote, which effectively takes effect. A few days later, the film progresses to depict Darren's body beginning to respond to Larton's vampire blood. He starts to desire raw meat. He possesses a profound inclination towards causing harm to his sister in a violent manner. Ultimately, he manages to restrain his bloodlust and retreats to his chamber. Larton is found reading his books while seated in the corner. Darren receives a directive from Larton indicating that he must vacate his residence due to the potential danger he presents to both his family and himself. Darren decides to proceed despite his reluctance following an incident where he nearly harmed his sister. He opts to fake his death, as he wishes to alleviate his parents' concerns about him for an extended period. Later that evening, Larton assists Darren in executing the task by breaking his neck on the rooftop of the house. This will lead to the assumption that he accidentally fell to his death. The film shifts to the present day. Darren remains alive and well, engaging in games on his phone in the coffin, while his friends, teachers, and family members express their condolences during his burial. Larton extracts Darren from the casket and proceeds to excavate the grave that evening. Unexpectedly, Merlot arrives and ambushes them before they have the opportunity to leave. Fortunately, he is deterred by Larton, who momentarily overpowers him. He takes Darren to the freak show campsites following the near miss, where they encounter Rebecca. Steve is deeply affected by the loss of his friend. He consequently becomes increasingly irrational and isolates himself from society. At a certain point, when the suffering becomes overwhelming, he contemplates ending his own life. However, Mr. Tiny intervenes at the moment he is about to undertake the unthinkable. He acknowledges his awareness of Steve's unfortunate circumstances and his fascination with vampires in general. He then presents him with the opportunity to become a Vampanese. Tiny and Merlot are identified as Vampanese, a unique category of vampires that, unlike Larton and the others, they take human lives to feed on their blood. Furthermore, it is revealed that Vampanese and traditional vampires are fierce competitors and hold differing views. Mr. Tiny discloses an even more surprising revelation as Steve listens in disbelief. He said that Darren is at peace and leaving in the afterlife, which is precisely what Steve had always wanted and aspired to. Then Steve got incensed by the news and accepts the offer promptly. Darren, in the meantime, gradually acclimates to the other individuals in the unique campsite. He initiates self-training and provides support to others in their responsibilities. Upon reviewing the photographs from his past, Darren resolves to contact Steve. However, Larton arrives before he can, takes Darren's phone, and destroys it. That evening, Mr. Tiny visits the freak camp to confer with Mr. Tall and Larton regarding Darren. Mr. Tiny formally requests the transfer of the young individual, as it has been determined that he possesses exceptional natural abilities. Despite their differences, a diplomatic Mr. Tall assures him that he will consider it carefully. Larton informs Darren that it is no longer safe for him to exit the camp. He begins to train Darren to effectively manage himself should he encounter any difficulties. The young individual initially struggles to make contact with Larton. However, as the training progresses, there is a noticeable enhancement in strength and abilities. Steve acquires remarkable abilities following Merlot's transformation of him into a Vampanese. Furthermore, Steve exhibits a growing hunger, ultimately leading to his history instructor becoming the initial victim. Meanwhile, Darren begins to require new blood as he starts to experience hunger. Larton escorts him to a nearby farm and administers sedation to an individual to address the situation. He stated that vampires merely borrow blood from individuals, instead of taking their lives. Despite Darren's hunger, he finds himself unable to proceed, leading them to return to camp. Shortly thereafter, a group of aggressive Vampanese unexpectedly invaded the peaceful campsite of the performers. The conflict between the two sides is marked by significant violence, resulting in considerable chaos. The Vampanese swiftly ascertain Darren's whereabouts, ultimately discovering him and Rebecca hiding within a dressing room. An aggressive confrontation ensues when the Vampanese attack Darren. Nonetheless, Darren is saved from imminent death. Ultimately, it is revealed that Rebecca has been taken by Merlot. Darren, feeling a sense of accountability for the entire situation, sets out to find her the following morning. Mr. Tiny takes his family captive in an effort to deceive them. Upon Darren's arrival at his home, he finds out his family is taken away. He notices an invitation to the circus on a flyer placed on the table. Larton, in the meantime, gathers his weapons after making the decision to engage in the battle. In the subsequent scene, Rebecca and her family are tied and displayed on the wall as Darren makes his entrance to the circus. Observing Steve alongside the Vampanese also got him more angry. Without any hesitation, he fights his former closest friend, Darren, and Larton also appears and begins to engage in combat with Merlot. Darren exhibits greater power and strength to beat up Steve because he has not received any blood transfusions. At that moment, Rebecca breaks free and instructs Darren to consume her blood to regain his stamina. Initially, he expresses his objections, however. Upon receiving reassurance from Rebecca that all will be fine, he proceeds to take her blood. Despite sustaining severe injuries in other areas, Larton utilizes his remaining strength to deliver a fatal stab to Merlot's heart, resulting in his death. Mr. Tiny observes from a distance as Darren and Steve engage in yet another fight. He decides to intervene and bring a conclusion to the situation because he has reached his limit. Mr. Tiny utilizes his distinctive skills to convert Merlot into a dwarf creature for the purpose of reviving him. He subsequently extends an invitation to the two young men to join him. Steve promptly complies, impressed by his strength, while Darren does not. Subsequent to the confrontation, Larton employs hypnosis on Darren's family to eliminate their latest memories. Their recollection of the paranormal activities that occurred before them will not be captured in this manner. Upon Darren's return to the camp at the film's conclusion, the group warmly welcomes him, creating a sense of belonging. Thank you for watching, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos.